Hello, I'm Geeta Natkarni, founder of Impact with Influence, and you are here today for my training on how to tell your story so that you can attract more premium, amazing coaching clients. Let's get to it. All right, so most of the clients that we work with, so everybody that we work with is either a course creator, a coach, an expert, or a consultant of some kind. Not in the MLM space, nothing against MLM people, but we don't work with you. We don't know how to help you do what you do. But people that we work with are typically in the premium space or wanting to get into the premium space. And I'm going to just really quickly define what the premium space is. It is the where you're charging between $3,000 or $3,500 on the low end, all the way up to $35,000. So if you're watching this, if this is you, give me a big old hashtag replay if you're watching the replay, because I love to know who my replay peeps are. I always come back and look at the comments. If you have questions for me, don't hesitate to ask them, because that helps me understand what it is you're looking for. And it actually helps guide my content creation decisions. So please help me help you. Now, I do have a question for all of you. I want to see all my comments here. So I'm looking up the group here on my phone. Tell me where you're from. I know there's some OG peeps in here. So tell me where you're from and what your coaching topic is. And obviously, my intention with asking you this every single time is not for you to necessarily tell me. Some of you, I literally know you by name. I look for you. I know which one of you takes really amazing notes. You know who you are. And you have so much to give, and that's beautiful. But I want us to always introduce ourselves. My intention always is to create amazing connections within this community. So if you show up and share what your topic is and where you're at, chances are you're going to pick up somebody to be a friend, to be an accountability partner, possibly even to be a client from this group. And that is my intention for
Or a
everybody.
lover.
So tell me, or a
Or a
lover.
lover.
That's true.
It's possible.
Or a lover. Pat and I did meet at work. It's true. Not in a coaching group, but we did meet at work. I'll tell you that story some other time. Hi, Kala. Let me see if I can see. Oh, sometimes Facebook is so strange with what it's willing to show me about comments and such. I see you. I see Kala. Kala's from Barrie, Ontario. She helps new moms struggling with anger and rage. Interestingly, not our first client who does that topic, but it's so funny how at first we had never heard of this before, and now here it is. So amazing. And we work with both the only two people in the world who do this happen to be our clients. Whoop, whoop, yay, Kala. All right, so tell me where in the world you are and what your coaching experience is. Hey, Megan. Megan just joined the program like today. We haven't even started yet. Okay, so I'm super excited to work with you, Megan. Tell everybody what your coaching expertise is. If you're watching the replay, give me a big old hashtag replay. And another question I have for you that's also going to help guide me through today's live is, what is it that you most struggle with either your content creation or your messaging? What are your biggest struggles? And obviously, this is a little bit of a deeper question, right? It's not as easy to just like put off the top of your head, like, hey, I'm from Ontario or I'm from Texas or whatever. What do you most struggle with in your messaging? This is really like, give me as much detail as you can, maybe even come back later after this is over and give me some more detail, because the more I know about what you struggle with, the better I will be able to create these free trainings to guide you and help you. Okay. Megan's from Vermont. There's Yasmin. Hey, Yasmin. Denver, Colorado. There's Kevin Gerbert from BC. How cool. I love it. Okay. I have so much for you today. So I want to make sure that we get to it. We're talking about using your story to attract premium coaching clients. Okay. So there is a method to this. And what I want to share with you, let's start at the very beginning. Now, it's important to know what the beginning is, right? And you guys have heard me talk about where the heck is my continuum thingy. I think I threw it out, honestly, because I was like, I used to have this keyboard pad.
I'm sorry.
Did you throw it out?
I threw it out. It was time. We should replace your continuum with a cat.
Yeah.
You want me to bring you a cat?
No, thanks.
No.
She's just gonna park her butt on my microphone and drive me mad. Um, but okay, let's use my arm. This is the continuum. Now we have to figure out which is the end of the continuum. Imagine that this is nirvana. That's the opposite. It's so frustrating when it's inverted like that. Let's do this again. This is nirvana. And this is where your client is in absolute hell. They're in such horrible pain and they're like, oh God, why? Right? Now, all of us typically have been our own client. We are our best client if we're doing it right. So we started somewhere over here, and our goal is to get, am I doing this right? We started somewhere over here, and our goal is to get over here.
No.
You
You
know,
have to stand with your hand and go to your elbow, left to right, but inverted. I know you're struggling a little bit with
I'm
left to
clearly
right. Yeah.
this feels like back in the day when I first started presenting the weather, and there was the blue screen behind me, which was a blue screen, which then became a green screen. This is how old it was. And I'd be like pointing this way, but actually that way. It's so confusing. Anyway, imagine there's a continuum. One end is hell. The other end is where your client wants to end up. Now you have to figure out what is the appropriate time on that continuum where you woke up to your own shit. Okay. And this is really important to figure out because if you go too far back on the continuum, and we've often worked with clients on this, right? Where they're like, so they are able to really viscerally describe the pain and they're like, oh my God, all the details of the pain and whatnot. But then what they end up doing is they end up attracting clients who are extremely attached to, like almost married to the pain, and they just don't want to give up the pain yet. How many of you can relate to this? Right? Does this make sense? Hey, Brian. How many of you can understand this, right? Where have you ever spoken to somebody who's like, they're checking every box, they totally have the problem that you solve, but they're not coachable yet. They're not in that place where the pain of getting help is outweighed by the pain that they're in. Like they need to move forward. They're sick and tired of it. They're like, anything is better than this. So getting help is still more painful than continuing in the pain. That person's never going to buy. Does that make sense? So you have to figure out where in the continuum. So my favorite way to figure this out, and what we help our clients really dial in, especially on our group coaching calls, is that beautiful dance between pain and bliss. Because think about it. Yes, in order to invest on a premium, your client has to be in a significant amount of pain that they want to, like, they're either single because they want to find love, or they're overweight and they want to lose weight, or they have a business that's struggling and they need business coaching, like whatever that looks like, right? They're in some kind of pain and it feels really urgent to fix the problem. Now, that you would think people, you always hear people buy their way out of pain. That is true. And pain is a very important piece of this. P in PATH, the methodology I developed, is pain. However, there is a very important other component to this. And it is often the component that people miss in their messaging and in their own thought process, and often have not fully fleshed out even for themselves. And this is why this is the very first assignment that we give clients when we onboard them, is fleshing out their vision and their bliss. And I'll tell you why. Because if you have somebody who's very, very deeply mired in their pain and they don't yet have an adequate amount of hope, yes, people will buy their way out of pain, but they're buying towards hope. Does that make sense? If they're not crystal clear on what the outcome is that they seek, if they're not super bought into the fact that this is actually available to them, if they haven't yet opened up themselves to being not in pain yet, then it's going to be very difficult for them to make a big investment. Does this make sense to you? Tell me in the comments if this is resonating for you. Because a lot of people, yeah, there you go. See, catching them at the right time. So this really landed for Yasmin. A lot of people will be great at describing the pain, and they'll attract a whole bunch of very pain-centered clients. And then they won't be able to walk them over the line of decision because they don't know how to tap into hope yet. But someone who's hopeless is not going to make a huge investment. Does that make sense? Not of time, and certainly not of energy, not of money, right? They don't have enough. People who don't have hope perceive that they don't have enough time and they don't have enough energy. And obviously, then that leads them to perceive that they also don't have enough money. So it's really important to figure out where on the continuum. So one of the exercises we guide our clients through. And one of the ways that we kind of nuance this for our clients, and I'll tell you some stories in a bit of how we did this, is we help them really figure out that interplay, that dance between the pain and the hope and the bliss, right? And then we help them connect their clients to both those points so that the client is like, oh my God, I so see the pain I'm in. Oh my God, I see all the ways that it connects. And oh my God, I'm so sick and tired of this. And yes, I know exactly what I'm buying, because they're not buying your program. They're not buying your time. They're not buying your modules or whatever. Like, they're not buying your process even. What they're actually buying is their freedom from the situation that they're in. And they need to be able to see what the F that is in order for them to make a buying decision. Capiche? Cool. Now let's move to the next piece of this, which is so here's how we're going to flesh this out, right? What specific pains drove you to your own awakening? And I have my notes right here, so I might just look off screen for a second or two once in a while. Now, I have a really good story to tell you about this. So, we had a client who is in the health space. So she doesn't have a make money offer. I often hear people be like, oh, it's easy for a business or a money-making offer to be a premium. People will pay for that because they're going to make their money back. But what if I'm in health? What if I'm in love? What if I'm in well-being or spirituality, or one of those areas where the dollar amount of the outcome is not so obvious? So here's what happened. So this particular client that we worked with, she's really great at helping women, especially but not exclusively Hispanic women. She happens to be a Hispanic woman, transform their hormonal situation, which often leads to both weight loss and a return of fertility. So with her, women will often have really painful periods or no periods at all. They're infertile. They've got, skin issues, weight issues, all this other stuff. So we were digging into this, and she had kind of fleshed out the pain, but it was still feeling a little bit superficial, right? And it made her sound like everybody else in the health space. And we obviously don't want that. So we were digging in on one of our group coaching calls, and I was asking her questions. And she said, and this is why we record our group calls, because people will say the most beautiful things, or they will come out of my mouth or out of Maria or Brittany's mouth, and they just land, and it's so powerful. And and we're not even trying, and we don't remember what the heck we say. And what she said was, and I wrote it down here, she said about herself. So this is again about asking yourself, where on the continuum were you? And there will not just be one moment, obviously. There might be one moment that you really are like, oh my God, that was the pivotal, seminal moment where I finally said no more, and I gave myself permission to get help, right? But often we'll have smaller moments as well. And there might be a whole constellation of those moments. You need to figure out what those moments are for you. So in her life, it was like, I had hormonal issues with my skin. My period was not regular. And we were trying, and we dug into so we were digging into the emotions of what that felt like. So it was not just the physical aspect, and we'll get to this in a second. It was the emotional aspect that we were digging into with her. And she said, I felt like my body had betrayed me. I was trying to get pregnant, and we were trying. And this is something that happens to teenagers who make like one mistake one time. And here I was spending months, and I felt like my body had betrayed me. And I felt like I was trapped in this broken mess of a body. Now think about the level of desperation that somebody would feel in that situation. And she had just articulated it. She had just really summarized it in just a couple of sentences. For somebody who's living that pain, it feels so deeply validating to be seen and to know that they're not the only one on the face of this earth that is going through this problem, that somebody else has been there. And that brings me to my next point, which is authenticity creates authority. Right? Everybody comes to us and they're like, help me be an authority in my space. Help me like position myself as an expert. And while there are lots of really great external ways to do that, and yes, we will teach you how to get press, and yes, we will give you a PR list and a Guinness World Record winning process for how to get press like literally every week in, Forbes and Inc. and all this stuff. Sure, that's one way to create authority. But the best way to create authority, in my opinion, but that's candy on top. Like if you can get that in addition to this way, that's the best way. But if I had to choose, and if I was broke and starting from nothing, this is the way that I would choose. When we work with our clients, we help them get really, really specific, because it is in the details of the transformation. Think about this, right? Think about that continuum again. You started with pain, and you're going to end up with the result that you have and the outcome that your clients want. How well you're able to articulate that transformation, how well you're able to dig into the specific details of that process that you followed, not the steps, not the actions that you took necessarily, but the actual shift that happened. And there are always two aspects to this, right? There is the external aspect, and then there's the internal aspect. And I'll talk about this in just a second. But so rule 101 of great storytelling is show, don't tell. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm the foremost, and I see people do this all the time. They're like, I'm the world's #1 leading business coach. And I'm like, according to whom? Like, who counted that? I'm an award-winning blah, blah, blah. I'm an international speaker. So is everybody. Like, who gave you that title, and what had to have happened for you to get that title, and who even cares, right? None of this to me establishes any authority. This is just how I shop. I'm just letting you know, right? Does this make sense to you? Like, none of this actually creates any authenticity or authority for me. On the other hand, if somebody can describe a situation that I'm like, oh my God, she's me. Like, she is describing exactly how I felt yesterday when I was thinking about this. Holy crap. Like, this person, she's either describing her own journey or she's describing a journey that she helped another client with. And now I can be like, oh my God, so I am not too messed up to actually get help. This person is able to take somebody with either my problem or a problem that's even worse than my problem and has been able to help them. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm like, where's my credit card? Like, I need to get this. That's how that works. So if you can demonstrate with the details of your journey, and this is what we help our clients do, then you're automatically winning their trust without trying super hard, without all this like weird posturing and posing. You're just saying, like, this used to be me. This was so difficult. Here's what was difficult about it. I tried this thing, and here's why I failed at it. And here's how I felt when I failed. And I thought I was broken, and I got so tired of feeling that way. And then one day I woke up and I thought, what if? And that's the T in path, right? So, and we have this whole process that we teach our clients to do. You're proving that you are your ideal client. You can get them both at the surface where it really matters. So like, there's always that surface transformation, right? So if you're a weight loss coach or you're helping women with their hormones, their skin will clear up, they'll lose the weight, their hair will stop falling out. There's that, so if you're a business coach, their business will start making money, they will have better systems, their time will free up, whatever that looks like. There's that surface one. And then underneath that, there's the emotional transformation. Because the fact of the matter is, if you're not able to fully articulate both those transformations, but especially the emotional transformation, then either you don't fully own it yet for yourself, and that's a possibility, or if you can't pass that on to your client, then, and if that internal transformation does not occur, then whatever the surface transformation is, it may or may not last, right? If somebody doesn't change the way they fundamentally think, then any progress they make in their business may be just a flash in the pan, and that progress may disappear in an instant because they haven't fully understood what created it. If somebody doesn't change their habits around love, let's say, they might meet somebody, it might be really great for a couple of months, and then it's all going to fall apart because they didn't fundamentally make the emotional shift. So it's super important. The more you can actually articulate the internal invisible shifts, the more you're going to establish your authority and your credibility in an authentic way. Give me a thumbs up if this makes sense. Does this make sense? Show authority. Yasmin's great notes here. Show authority by demonstrating and being specific. Absolutely. Thank you, Anna. Exactly. So this brings me to my next point. What outcomes are created by the transformation? So another thing that I often see with clients is that they're not able to articulate or specifically state what the outcomes are. And I just want to say, in many cases, especially in the messaging world, people are like, oh, I need to figure out my tagline. Oh, I need to figure out my title. Oh, I need to figure out all of these external pieces. Again, it's a little bit like saying, well, until I get my cover on, until I get my face on the cover of Forbes, I haven't really arrived. I don't really have the right amount of authority. That's bullshit. It's just not true, right? And that doesn't necessarily give you the authority either. What is it that you want to accomplish? So the way that I look at it is you don't need a tagline. You don't need to be able to say it in just one sentence. Think about it. The deeper the transformation that you really create for somebody, the harder it might be to put it all in one sentence. And also, what is the purpose really of having a sentence that says it all? You know what happens when you do that? When you actually you've worked your buns off, you've hired somebody, you've written out all the messages, and you've spent hours and hours and hours dialing it until it's finally perfect. And you're like, I help coaches monetize and publicize their purpose. That's my tagline, if you will. I never use it, right? But if I were to use that, then you'd be like, oh, cool. That's cool, right? It doesn't lead to a deeper conversation. It doesn't make you automatically be like, oh my God, how do you do that? Like, can you tell me more? That's what you want to create. So give yourself the expansiveness that you need. You can say it in multiple sentences. It's fine. You don't need to have a tagline. I'm a messaging coach, a pretty highly paid one at that, right? We don't give our clients taglines. Sometimes taglines will emerge as a side effect of the work. Sometimes they just come up and we'll be like, hey, here's your tagline, here you go. But sometimes they don't. I don't even really have a tagline, and it's not important. So don't get hung up on the pieces that really aren't important. What I want you to talk about are the transformations that you create. Most people think they're really good at this, but they aren't. So one of our clients, Stephanie, who works with nurses, right? One of the things that she was really struggling with was she was able to really dig into the pain because she's still in that world. She's living it every day. She's experienced, she's seeing what's going on in the world, right? So she's able to articulate the pain, no problem. Her problem was she could not figure out, well, what is the bliss? Her own nervous system was so tightly wound that she could not figure out what would not happen. Like all she could figure out was like, I want to stop feeling stressed. That's as blissful as she could get. That's not bliss. That's just survival, right? So we had to bring her nervous system back down. When I say we, she did it. She did the work, but we gave her the right advice in the right order. So interestingly enough, the first piece of advice we gave her, especially when she started working with Steve on our mindset team, was, Stephanie, you need to sleep. You need to have more hours of sleep. You need to bring your nervous system back because your creativity is offline right now. We cannot create what you're trying to create. We cannot create a new reality with this level of stress. It's just not going to happen. And thank God, at first she was like, that's stupid. How is that going to work? How the hell is that going to work? And I was like, trust us. Just do it. Try it for a week. Try it for a few days. Changed her life. So at first she was like, oh my God, I can't stop sleeping. Like all I do is sleep. My husband's like, what is wrong with you? Why are you sleeping all the time? And I was like, because you're catching up. Give it to your body. Give yourself a week, like expand time. And she did. And you know what? All of a sudden, everything started to click. This woman didn't have a program 8 weeks ago. She's still in the program. She's not even graduated yet. And now she's sold, I can't remember, 4 or 5 seats in her. She didn't even have a program 8 weeks ago. So all this to say that when you get your creativity, and part of the issue that she had was she couldn't describe it. The first 2-3 calls she got on sales calls didn't convert. Why? She couldn't get them connected to their hope, to their bliss. So they were stuck in the pain. They would bitch and complain, and then they would just not take any action. And she was like, why? And I was like, we haven't calibrated this. So we helped her calibrate it. Next thing you know, she closed the next 3 sales, right? That's how that works. So you have to be able to describe what the outcome is. And oftentimes people have trouble with this. How many of you have trouble with this? People have trouble with this when they're not clear about their own bliss, right? Especially think about it. You're your ideal client. You're very familiar with the pain, but you haven't fully opened up to what the possibilities are for yourself. So you're telling a story that's kind of too close to the pain for it to be high dollar, right? Like you're not going to spend thousands of dollars to walk 3 steps. You want to spend thousands of dollars to make a quantum leap. So if you yourself are not connected to your bliss, then it becomes really difficult to help your clients open up their consciousness towards that bliss, which is exactly where it's that combination of pain and bliss that's going to help them make the buying decision. So hopefully this is landing and you're understanding this. Yes, Jessica says, I have trouble accessing my bliss. Pain is easy. you're not alone, Jessica. I've seen this pattern a lot with some, not all our clients, but some of our clients really get stuck in this place. Their pain is gorgeous. Like the way they're able to articulate it is fantastic, but then they end up just constantly attracting clients who are too stuck, who are not able to unstick themselves enough to make an investment and move forward, right? So that can be a really big deal. And Jessica says, but Maria's exercises really help. Maria's a genius. That's why she's on the team. All right. Next piece, of course, and of course, some of you are gonna be like, well, it's all very good to, so the story that I just told you about Stephanie, you see how it was not short, it was not a sentence, it's not me showing you what the outcome is in one sentence like that. I'm telling you a story and I'm helping you see what the process looked like, what the sticking points were, what the problems were. So if this happens to be your problem, you're gonna be like, oh my God, she can help me because she helped her. Do you see how I did that? Now, you might be asking yourself, well, okay, Geeta, that's really great for you. You have all the clients, man. Like, you've got all the clients, you've got all these amazing stories. But what if I'm just starting? What if I'm just starting on the coaching side of things? Yes, I might have this expertise from my previous life in corporate or whatever the deal is. And I just want to be caveat here. If you are one of those people who is just really early in the coaching journey, as in you're not even fully an expert in anything yet, you're just dabbling in coaching because you want to help people, but you're really not sure how, you're not ready for what we do, okay? The best place for you to be is in this group. We're going to give you content like this that is going to help develop your ability and help you develop that ability to see what your own gifts are. That's where you need to be, but you're not ready for our paid programs yet. Okay. If on the other hand, you're somebody who either has an established coaching business that you want to grow, or you're just getting into coaching, even though you've had an expertise in some other context, you have the chops, you have the results, you just have never done it online, then this advice is for you. Okay. Number one, be your own best client, right? So, especially if you're in the early days where you have a modality, but you haven't had a lot of clients that you've worked with, the best way for you to develop these stories is to just drink your own medicine by the bucketful. Take your own advice. How many of you actually do exactly what you would tell a client to do? There's so many different layers to this, reasons why this is so important. One, first of all, when you actually believe it, you're going to vibe differently. I will tell you 99% of the people who join our program, when they get on a call, whether with me or someone on the team, they say, what attracted you? What resonated with you? It's like, Geeta's energy. That's what that is. It's my pure belief in what I do because I'm actually doing it. I have run this process. I have broken this process. I have had to fix and band-aid the process. I've had to put it back together. I have seen that this process is not working anymore in this new context that the market has evolved to. We've had to evolve the process. When you spend that much time with anything or anyone, you really love them. You really fall in love and in relationship to them. And so it makes me a much stronger coach. You can't stump me with a question because chances are, whatever way that you're breaking the process, I've broken it that way and 17 other ways, and we fixed it and we figured out a way forward, right? So you're going to develop that confidence in your ability by taking your own medicine, by being your own best client, by leading by example. Another reason, obviously, to lead by example is it's going to give you this wealth of contexts and circumstances in which your method applies. It's going to give you a million different examples of the process and the transformation in motion. That's authority with authenticity. Does that make sense? You're being deeply authentic. And also hire somebody who coaches the way that you coach. Like oftentimes our clients will hire me or us, our team, because we coach them the way that they coach their clients. They're like, I'm able to do this for other people, but I need someone to do this for me. Think about it. If you're not willing to invest top dollar in getting the exact kind of help that you give people, what are you actually telling the universe? What does your subconscious sending out as a signal? You're saying, I don't believe in this enough to invest in it. I don't believe that if I invest in this, I'm going to grow, I'm going to expand, and I'm going to attract abundance. then why, if you don't believe it, why on earth would somebody else believe it? You're asking something that's completely out of alignment. Like, I just made multiple huge investments in coaching this year for myself to get thought leadership and mentorship and coaching from people who will coach me the way I coach you. That's going to take my game up as a coach. It's going to expand my consciousness and my understanding of my own work, because I'm going to receive what I give. And I'm like, oh, I see what it feels like on the receiving end. That's so interesting. Even when I receive it in a way that I don't like, it still informs the process, because I'm like, oh, I see what he was trying to do, but that didn't really work for me. Okay, I see how I can evolve this as a process for me coaching our clients. There's no way to screw this up. There's no way to not get something out of it. Does that make sense? So I'm a huge believer in congruity and being your own best client. And you need to, as in receiving this, I'm constantly and intentionally evolving my own game. So if you're looking to be held, especially if you're the kind of person, when you coach your clients, it's almost like your energies meld. You are able to see into them in a way that they just can't do by themselves, right? You're able to ask them questions. You're able to hear what they say differently than how they hear it themselves. You can take that same answer and mirror it back to them, and they're like, oh my God, I get it now. I see it. If you want to be held in that way, then come work with us. Like, find a link. There's probably going to be a link around the video or in the comment section or up on the screen. Book a call, explore what it would be like to work with us, because again, it's only going to take your game up. It's going to expand your sense of possibility, and it's going to give you a process. And this is why we work with clients both on the mindset side of things as well as on the tactical side of things. If any of you are new here, I want you to understand, don't come to us where you're like, hey, just tell me how to say my message. So like, tell me how to say it better so I can get more clients. That's not how this works. The first thing we're going to go and check is, why are you not showing up the way that you are designed to? Like, what is your story? What is the block? What is the inhibitor? And we have a whole process around this called the clarificator. You can find it in the media section. Somebody will link it. Somebody pop the link in the comments. Use the clarificator. It's impactwithinfluence.com/clarificator. That's your DIY process that we've made available to you for free. But when you work with us, we're going to go deep into this. It's going to be a supported process. When all your deepest, darkest fears bubble up, someone is going to be there in that space with you to say, okay, here's a reframe on this. What if this fear is actually the best protection ever? What if this obstacle or the story about yourself is exactly the story that your ideal clients need to hear from you? And in releasing your energy around this, you make yourself available to the people that you're meant to serve. That's what we do. And then, so usually what we do is we help you surface your deepest, darkest stuff. The mindset team works with you on reframing and releasing the block. And then the copy team works with you on turning that into your most powerful messaging. And that's what attracts to you these deep, committed, aligned versions of yourself that then you get to coach. And then in coaching them, you get to re-experience your breakthroughs. You get to take full ownership of the transformation because you're reliving it by helping them through it. Does this make sense? Now, tell me if you have any questions. I would love to see them. Super exciting. Yay. Oh my God, look at that. So Patricia is like, perhaps my kick-ass posts will come and get the sales faster to start in Feb. Still so stoked that I've sold my first 2K package and my client is loving it. Amazing. That's huge. All right. Abdullah's here. Hey, Abdullah. So I was going to say, who asked me? Teresa, you asked me a question. You said, what platform should we message on? And long story short, think about it. You are your ideal client. You are a version, an evolved version of your ideal client. Where do you hang out? What platforms do you use, or what platforms does she use, right? Sometimes you're going to have to get on a social media platform where you've been in hiding. So sometimes I'll have clients who come to me and be like, well, Geeta, I don't really like being on Facebook and I don't like Instagram and I'm not really on social media at all. Do I have to be? The answer is you have to be on something. If you're going to get found, there has to be some way that you get found. In the world of COVID, where in-person gatherings are at a minimum, if not completely banned, depending on where you live, that's going to have to be somewhere online. Now that can be a number of different places, but the more deeply you understand who your ideal client is, the more of an informed decision that you're going to be able to make about this. So those of our clients who work with corporate executives and things like that, they typically will play on LinkedIn. They still use our path framework. The framework works across platforms. You can use it on video, you can use it on audio, you can use it in writing, you can use it via email, you can use it on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, you can use it. You can use it on a blog post. It doesn't matter. It's just a framework, and it's platform agnostic and it's medium agnostic, which means any medium, video, print, whatever, writing, audio, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter which platform it is. So honestly, Teresa, the answer is, where do your clients hang out? If you're working with small business owners and entrepreneurs, typically, they're probably hanging out on Facebook or Instagram. If they're very corporate minded, if you work more with small corporations who are more corporate minded, depending on the industry that you're in or the field that you have or where you come from, that's probably going to be more LinkedIn. Does that answer your question? Hopefully it does. Is Teresa here? Yes, so there you go. Perfect. And yeah, Jessica is saying, because she's using it, Path works on LinkedIn. Folks love seeing vulnerability on that. We have seen so many of our clients crush it on LinkedIn because honestly, everybody else is being like a super corporate suited robot. And here they are being really human and really real. And it's like the Brene Brown effect, right? You just make this incredible entrance and people are like, oh my God, like she's talking directly to me. What is this? Like, I want to know more about this person. And then people get followed and get DM'd and or whatever you call it on LinkedIn. Does that make sense? So there you have it. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. This has been super fun. If you have additional questions, pop them in the comments. I'm going to be hanging out. Your clients might be on LinkedIn, Teresa. That's absolutely. If you like being on LinkedIn, then develop LinkedIn for yourself. It's that simple. I'm not a TikTok person. You ain't gonna find me on TikTok, but you will find me on Facebook. I'll see you next week at 3 Eastern and 12 noon Pacific. Bye.